everyone, Cheryl from Tinker's Cart Art here. How is everyone today? Are you ready to paint? I hope so. So we are going to paint a fun little birch tree painting today. Pretty simple. You can paint birch trees so many different ways. I do a real simple way to paint them, and you can put all kinds of cool backgrounds behind them, but we're going to do a really summery, fun painting with my favorite colors. Hey Lois, thank you for watching. I'm going to let everybody pop in here. I'm bringing you up on my computer, so if you have any questions, ask them. If I don't see it, I will come back after the live and answer those, as well as the recording will be up. So do not worry if you come in late. Oh, from Vermont. I always want to ask where people are from. Lois, I'm coming to you from your neighboring state of Maine right now. I know a lot of people who have been, hey, Gail and Mary Jane, thank you guys. Oh, thanks, Lois. I appreciate it. And Tarita, thank you guys. You might have been following me with my move. I've been coming to you guys from Florida and Mass and Maine. Hey, Cynthia. So I'm in Maine now, and we are in the process of selling our house. So we have put our house in Mass up for sale this week. And so we will be wintering in Florida and summering in the coast of Maine, my favorite place. We have a little camper here. So I am happy to be here this morning with you all, and I have some exciting news I'm going to tell you about, and this is also part of what this painting is all about. Hey Carol, thank you guys. I appreciate you popping in. It looks like you can see everything. If there's ever an issue where I'm moving something around, you can't see it, please just let me know. And so I am an acrylic artist. I work in many mediums, but I do love acrylic for teaching, and I teach absolute beginners. So if you've not painted before and you might want to start, this is the place to be. I'll show you step by step. Today's painting, we don't even need a tracer. We're just going to paint on those birch trees. If I have a more detailed painting, then I do, of course, give you a tracer in many sizes. I teach online. You've seen me here. You've seen me on my Tinker's Cart page. And I also have an art membership, which is coming up to be opening in June. And what I decided to do, because I know there's a lot of different ways people teach, and you know, there's always something for everyone. But I want to show you how I teach, and if you like that method, I have a fabulous art membership that we have so much fun and we do so much painting. So what I'm doing is a sneak peek summer camp. So just so you could jump right in, as if you're a member for June, you're going to get all the content that my members get, and you can see how my teaching style is. So the summer camp, there's information in the description. I'll put something in the comments. It's only $10, and we are doing 4 amazing summertime paintings. And this is one. This is going to be our first painting in summer camp, but I wanted to do a little quick version of it for you today so you could see how easy it can be to paint some paintings. This is a pretty simple one. We're going to also paint this little one of the kids on the beach. Now that's more detailed, and I know you might say, oh, but I can't draw people, or I can't draw a straight line, and I'm not good. I give you a tracer, and I take you step by baby step. So I'm just going to quickly show you the paintings we're doing for summer camp week, and then I'll get to painting. The bike's so popular, right? My spring bike is one of my most popular classes. This is the summer bike, and then we're going to wrap it up with a painting of just blooming lilacs, kind of like the birch trees. It's good and simple, no tracer. But I don't want to go on. I want to paint with you. So let's just jump in and we can paint together. And we are going to, I'm going to put my sample right here. I'm just going to paint it on a little canvas pad here for you. I'm simply using my acrylic paints. I use a lot of this, the craft paint, the Deco Art. I do like some colors in the Liquitex fluids, but today we're just using simply Deco Art paint. Any craft paint will do. My message to you guys is to use what you have to get started. Don't use that as an excuse to I don't have the right things. Use what you have. I tell you very simple colors that you need, and I will tell you what I use when I do my paintings. I give you a little color palette, and you can just match that up to whatever brand you might like to use. And today I'm going to use when I'm doing landscape paintings, I like these hog bristle brushes. They're a little more body to them. They're a filbert, which is the rounded edge, and they're more in where the fine art supplies are. I love these for landscapes and texture, especially on a canvas. If you've got those little grooves and nooks and crannies, it gets right in there good for you. Well, and then I do use my synthetics. These are just inexpensive synthetic brushes, so I use those sometimes as well. But my background is going to be done with this big hog hair bristle. I've just got a few colors, and you know what? They're the colors that I really love. I have been working with these. I love the teals, the lime greens, and this salmon color, which is just Deco Art. Is Laguna is the teal, which I love, and melon and the coral or melon. This is coral, so it's in lime green, sour apple. But you can make a lime green if you're just using your primaries. I always try to tell everyone that I'm painting with what to use for your primaries, so you don't need all the colors. But you could just make a beautiful lime green with some of your phthalo green or you know, whatever green and blue you might have. Blue and green, blue and yellow, get your green. Sorry, my brain's not working today. And you can get a nice lime green if you really pump up the yellow in that mix. So, hey, Charlotte, good morning, you guys. Let's get going because I've been yucking and I want to paint. So, I'm going to start top down. I'm going to do our background first. I always go from the back forward, usually dark to light, which you'll see in the birch trees. I'm going to start with the teal color here, work into white, work into purple. I try to work a little fast so that the paint can mix as I go rather than having it dry too fast. So acrylics dry faster than like my oils. So I try to either work faster, or you can also put a slow drying medium in with your paints. But that's why I'm going to go kind of quick on this background. And I'm going to start at the top with my teal, which is the Laguna, the Deco Art, and I'm going to mix a little white with it. I don't want it too strong. I'm going to be mixing it with a yellow. I don't want it to be too strong. So I'm going to make sure you can see where, oh, let's move these guys. They're in your way. And I'm just going to go across the top of the painting. And you can see when I'm doing my landscapes, backgrounds, skies, I tend to use, see how I'm going like little crisscrossy strokes across here? I don't want to do this back and forth. This is going to be streaky. The acrylic paints are a little see-through, so it'll be a little streaky if I do that. So what I do is I do these textured strokes so that if there's a little bit of translucency in some of that background, it looks natural. It looks like the sky's a little lighter and darker in places. So that's why I do that. If I'm painting water, would be the only time I would stroke back and forth. I usually keep a paper towel in my hand. I do a lot of mixing and dry brushing, but I want to get the extra blue off my brush. So instead of washing it and getting the paint all wet, I'm just going to dry it off on my paper towel. Now I'm going to go into just the white. I want to lighten that pigment up a little bit before it turns into the yellow. I don't want to get too much of a green look. So I'm giving it like a little buffer almost. I'm taking white paint. The brush is dirty. It's got a little residue of blue in there. That's okay. I'm going right down. I'm almost going a little below what I just put on there so that I could get a little cleaner color. And now I'm going to just kind of start mixing it up here with the darker teal. I hardly did any mixing at all there, right? But look, it's already softly transitioning. And now I'm going into yellow, so I will rinse my brush off. I don't want to go into that lighter color with a lot of blue on the brush. Hey, Myra, thanks for watching. Thank you, guys. I know I've seen you all popping on, and I can't really catch everybody, but I really appreciate it. Denise, I am in Wells. Yes, I am. We've had rain for about a week, so it's actually not raining at the moment, so it's kind of nice. Alrighty. So I'm going to rinse it out, but when I wash it out, I really want to absorb any water that's in there. So try to get your brush back to being dry again. I'm using the yellow, which I love this saffron yellow. Paint, but it's a little bright there. I really want to soften it slowly into the yellow. So I'm going to go in with a little white again, just underneath where that blue was. I just want to get a little lighter yellow there. So if I put it on and now take a tiny bit of that yellow and white, it's a softer blend, and then I can get as dark as I want. It's a little bit difficult sometimes of the transitions from some of the colors into another when you're doing a sunset or something like that. So I sort of buffer it with the white. I'm going to dry my brush off on my paper towel now, and I'm going to just soften that a bit. I'm not really bringing that yellow way up into this part of the teal. Again, I don't want to get kind of a greeny look with that. So I just softly blended it. It's very light, but now I can go as dark as I want. So now I will go right into my yellow, and my sample gets a little dark as we go down. So that nice bright yellow, see, I'm still doing those little crisscrossy strokes. I went a little bit below the white. I just dry my brush off, and now I can really soften that very finely, just finessing that paint. And we're just going to work down to where we get to a little bit of purple on the ground, which we will put some trees on and some leaves. So I'm going to go a little bit bright here. And I like to mix my colors on the fly rather than mix up a nice perfect shade of middle tone yellow. Mix it up perfectly here. I'd rather take a little yellow, a little white, back and forth. It gives a more natural look, especially when you're painting, you know, something organic, a landscape or something like that. But I'm going to kind of, there's a lot of yellow on there now. I'm just going to go in with my white now. I like the texture I get when I'm just taking little bits of each color. I paint a little painterly. I like to see the brush strokes. I don't like to blend everything perfectly. So I am going to just take white, and I like the way it looks when you can see it's just sort of the brush strokes are showing. I know when the paint's wet it's a little bit glary, so I apologize for that, but you can kind of get the idea. And I'm going to go right down, and I think I might like, where that is really intense, that yellow, I'm going to take just white. Remember, it's going on a brush that is a little bit dirty with yellow. And this is still wet, so I can make sort of a textured, kind of a textured background in there if I like, just patting on some of that yellow. Softens that real intense color that was there. But doesn't it look great, this little pats of color? I really love that look. And if you are more of a blender than me, you can certainly keep blending it. That's what makes the world go round. I don't want you to paint just like me. I want you to get the basics and then go on your own. Because if you just wiped off this brush now, and just went at it with softly, you could blend it as nice as you like, and that's a great look too, and many people paint that way. This is how you start, and then you're gonna get some ideas of things that you like. And sometimes that just happens, you know, it's like a serendipity thing. It's just I discover little techniques and little things I like the look of purely by accident and purely by making mistakes. So it's a big process of making mistakes and finding new ways to do things and being surprised by things. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want you ever to be afraid to jump in or timid. Jump in and just get that brush on the canvas. I will now rinse off again because I'm going to transition into a little bit of the purple now. So again, when I rinse my brush off in the water, I really just absorb the water out. So really, a paper towel is always my friend, or a rag or something that you want to, whatever you want to dry your brush off with. To buffer into the purple, I'm going to go ahead now with my white again, and I sort of do that little bit of, like a little strip of white, barely touching the yellow, leaving a little buffer, and then I'm going to bring it up into the yellow. I just want a little clean, light area, which if I went right into the yellow and started moving down with it, I would not have, it would be a brighter yellow into that purple, and I want a soft, I want a subtle blend. So backgrounds are really fun to play with. You could just practice backgrounds. This could have a little still life in front of it. This could have some other elements. It doesn't have to just be for this painting. Learn different backgrounds, and then you can incorporate them in all kinds of fun ways. So now, the purple I have is a dioxazine purple. It's pretty intense and dark. I could have all the shades of purple in the little bottles of paint. I tend to mix a lot, so I use this one purple. This is all I use really. If I want more of a pink or a red purple, I'll just mix that with appropriate color, or just lighten it with white. So I'm going to get it lighter. I'm not going to use it that deep until maybe if I get to the bottom, but right now I'm taking just a tiny bit of purple, grabbing some white, and I want to just go again below this little bit of white I put on. If any of you are on my page, you might have seen this painting. I did this in person a couple of weeks ago. The ladies loved it. They had a blast. Everyone's came out great. And if you take a look, you'll see that on my page still. So it is a favorite painting. So I did decide to put that into the summer camp lineup. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be, I can put the calendar out too. But we are going to paint each week. So on Monday, we're going to paint this painting. But it'll be a little more in-depth and a little longer. We've just got the 45 minutes this morning, so we're going to do this kind of quick, but I'm going to go into it a little slower. We're going to do that Monday night. Tuesday afternoon, we're painting the little kids on the beach. Wednesday night, we're doing the bike, the summer bike there. And then on Thursday, we get together every month, in addition to the classes that you get. We get together for what I call a brush and banter, and I will demo a little tutorial. I think we're going to probably do waves or skies or clouds. You know, I pick different subjects, but it's very casual. We just hang out. We get to know other people in the community. Sometimes we just do a painter's choice and everyone just brings something they're painting on. I'm there to help you with anything, whatever you're working on or any questions you have. I'm there live to address it. So if you have a painting that's giving you a little difficulty, I'm there. That's Thursday. And Friday, you get a recording for the lilac painting. So in the membership, I do give a couple of recorded classes, as well as a live class, as well as the live brush and banter session. So the summer camp's going to be all in 1 week. Generally, you would get things each week, but I thought we'd do it all in 1 week for anybody who wants to pop in and just see what it's like, the membership is like, or just to do those 4 paintings. You don't have to join. There's no obligation. But I thought it's kind of nice sometimes to see what you're getting yourself into, and this is the perfect way. So I'm going now with my darker purple. I'm going to go right along the very bottom. There's a little gap here, but that's what I'm going to blend. I'm just going to go along the very bottom with that darker purple. And you can see it is translucent. The acrylic colors are a bit, and that I like the look of sometimes. But if you wanted this to cover better or more, for whatever reason, what you're painting, you need a nice solid coverage, just let it dry and put another coat, or even 3. The key is to let it dry first. If I went now and put a second coat, I would just pull off my first coat. So don't worry if some of the colors are transparent. The yellows usually are, the oranges. I just do a nice thin coat, let it dry good. You can always hit it with the hairdryer or the heat gun if you're impatient like I am. And now I'm just going to go into a little of the light purple or the white and just get that blended. So now we have a nice blend. If I was taking more time on this painting, I would have this a little bit, I would make it maybe a little higher in the sides and shape it a little bit, but I just want to show you how much you can do in a short period of time. I know, and I talk about this, so you probably heard it before, but I know with my members and people that I come across painting, and myself too sometimes, like I just don't have the time to sit down and paint, you know. You feel like it's a big production. You have to get everything ready, then you have to sit there for hours, and then you have to clean it all up. Look at what all of the presenters on Craft Around the Clock are doing in 45 minutes. So I did a challenge recently with another artist, and because I love being in memberships too, it's nice to not be the teacher sometime. And there was a little challenge of painting like the half an hour a day. I was shocked at how much I got done. And I always said, well, I have a half an hour. You know, I'll sit down now for a half an hour and I'll stop when I'm done. You can get a lot done. So try to just jump in and embrace art, and if you have any inkling that you would like to. I know so many people who have time now, like I know I've retired recently and I'm doing my art full-time, and that's wonderful. But when you're working and you have families, I know it's hard, but if you can get a little time for yourself for painting, it's so good for you. So there we are. So that's just our background. It's a little stripy, so I could just take my brush and blend a little more if I wanted to. But again, this is just a quick little demo to show you how to do the birch trees, basically. Pop in for my summer camp and you will see the real, you know, it won't be a long tutorial. It doesn't take a long time. It'll just be a little longer than 45 minutes. So, okay. Hey, Michelle. Oh, I love the summer bike too. And I'm going to, actually, it's so popular, we're going to do a fall themed bike and a holiday themed bike in the winter in the membership. So then you can have the whole set of all of them. Okay, so this is going to dry a tiny bit. I told you I like to work dark to light a lot of times. And I will show you, I start my birch trees kind of a gray blue and then add white. Let me just quick. Leanne, clean the paintbrushes. Leanne, I'm just using water. I do have a bar of like artist soap here, or ivory soap is fabulous. And when I am cleaning them, when I'm done painting, I will dip them in the water and I'll run them, oh, you can't see the soap, but I run them across the soap. And you'll see when you pull that on your paper towels how much more paint you're getting out. So I do try to take care of my brushes. I'm not always the best, but I do try, especially when you have your little synthetics or any sable brushes. You need to rinse those off well in between your colors. If you have a color on your brush and you say, I'm going to use it in a little while, rinse it off still and dry it, because the paint dries on these little brushes in no time. And if the paint dries up in the ferrule here, that's when all your brushes, hairs go kind of crazy and splayed, which a couple of tips, if you have some brushes that are really splayed, like this one is my liner. It's a nice fine liner, but it looks a little bit crazy, but when I wet it, it does go back to a nice tip. But if you have a brush that is, do I have some? I probably cleaned through my brushes. That's all splayed. which actually you can use for texture, which so hang on to those sometimes. But if you have one you want to try to save, I put a little pot of boiling water on the stove. Be careful, with that. And I just dip the tip in there, and sometimes you can get it back into shape. I rub it in some soap after to use it as like sizing. If you have paint that's dried, I take some alcohol, just rubbing alcohol. I put it in a little cup. I set the paint in, brush in there a little bit, and I can usually work it out with that. Alcohol is good to remove acrylic paint if it's someplace where it should not be. So that's how I clean them. Anyways, now the birch trees I'm going to just freehand on. You can use a round brush if you're comfortable with that. I like to go ahead and use my flat brushes. I love the idea that my flat brushes give me a big long stroke, or if I use it on the chisel edge, I can get a thin line. But you can also use a round brush if you wish. It's pretty much what you're comfortable with. I like to show you all the different ways, but you decide on your end. And so I'm going to I did not get any black or Payne's Gray or anything out, so I'm going to get a little bit of Payne's Gray. It's kind of like black, but it has a little blue in it. I'm such a color... I think I just splattered that on me. I'm such a colorful painter that I don't use black unless I really have to. I'd rather use black with a little blue mixed in. And I usually will shade any black things like black dogs or what black still life objects with a light blue. It just looks a little more, gives it a little more life. And instead of just white, where like for the dog, for instance, it's going to look gray and old if you start putting all the gray highlights in there. I really like to use a light blue. I'm very colorful when I paint. I'm going to mix up just kind of a grayish blue to base my birch trees in. And if we start them dark like this, and then we add white to them, it gives it a nice bit of shading behind. It doesn't look so flat, and you have some place to highlight. I love putting these little, don't you love those little highlights at the end? And the little sparkles? But you can't get them if you're putting them in an area which is already all bright. So I start dark, work up a little bit, and then some really cool sparkles. Yeah, Michelle, I love it because I would just have always mixed it before, so I'm kind of now like saying, why would I mix it? Because I use it so much. So I'm going to use the chisel edge of my brush. I'm going to just press a little bit down, and I'm going to go all the way up, and I wiggle a little bit because those birch trees are not perfectly straight, and actually can be a little thicker than that. And my paint is still a little wet down there, but that's all right. And this can be transparent because it's just an underpainting. You're not going to really see it. I'm going to look at my little sample over here. And can you see why we don't really need a tracer? You could, if you felt like you needed a little guideline, just take a piece of chalk. I have it somewhere here. Just a piece of ordinary chalk. And then you can sketch lines on when you're when you have something on your painting. But then it erase is really easy. So if you get the chalk lines and you don't follow them exactly, it's no worries. You can just erase it. So I always have a piece of chalk handy with my painting kit as well. Some of these can be thicker than others. Some could be little thin ones just in the background, like little ones that are just growing back there, or they're in the distance. I have a good stand of them in my painting. I've kind of got quite a few. I'm leaving the middle a little bit blank just because I love that background. So to start, I get my trunks on there. I'm going to grab that little liner brush I was telling you about. And when I use this, I add water to my paint and get it more the consistency of ink rather than thick paint. A lot of people will say, I can't paint a nice smooth line. I can't paint thin lines. If you're using paint straight out of the tube and it's thick, it's going to drag along. And when it drags along, you're going to press down. And when you press down, it gets thin, thick. So I get a really nice watered down paint for any of my detail work. Because the idea of the liners is you want to fill this liner brush with paint and paint as many strokes as you can without having to refill it. I find it easier. I think I just put my sleeve through my tree trunk. But anyway, I find it easier to paint towards me, so I would come now and just paint. These are just going to be some little branches. The birch trees tend to have the branches go up a little bit, not straight out, and I might want some little ones behind, and those can be done like this. I'm going to watch my time. Oh, we got plenty of time. And I just put some branches like out and up a little bit. I've painted lots of birch trees. They're fun to paint with a really dark night sky behind them, and then you could put, I spatter with a toothbrush snow on the whole scene, put a little red cardinal in the tree. Birch trees are so much fun and so easy. but we're putting leaves, so this is more of a summertime look, not really the winter. And when I'm doing these strokes, can you see how I've got my liner brush? I sort of press a little bit and pull and lift that brush off the canvas. That's how you get a little thin line. It's not so much you can't paint it, you've got to pressure and then lift it off the page, lift it right off the page, and you will not help but getting a thinner line, especially if your paint is very watered down. And you can go as much as you want with branches. So I'm going to leave that as that and let that dry a little bit. See if there's any questions as I'm missing here. Okay, so then I'm going to let that base dry a little bit. I'm going to add white on top, probably a few times. You can see on this one here, and actually see the texture on this one. This is one we did a while back in the membership, but we did it with modeling paste first and a palette knife and then painted the trees in. So you can do it that way as well, but it's kind of cool. It takes a little while for that modeling paste to work, so I didn't want to start that this morning, but I think we have done a little bit with modeling paste before, and you know what, we'll do it again because it really is fun. And we're going to just dab leaves down here and a few on the trees in these kind of colors that I have laid out. Yes, you probably wouldn't see teal and lime green and salmon colored leaves on the trees, but that's where I use my artistic license and throw colors that I like anywhere I want because I'm the boss of my painting, right? Okay, so I just told you to wash your brush between colors, and yet I did not, so I guess do as I say and not as I do. And I'm going to go into my white now. I'm going to go for a little smaller brush. I think I'm going to go for a smaller brush because I don't want to get too wide. I might just go with this. That's kind of wide. Let's see. I usually grab all the brushes I want to use beforehand, but I did not do that this time. Okay. I'm just going to go right into my white. My palette, I do like for you to see my palette too sometimes. Yeah, you can see a little bit. Right into my white paint. If it's been sitting out now and it's a little bit thicker, that's even better. I like the kind of textured look. And I am better with upside down pulling towards me. And I'm just going to go right over my birch tree like this. Now, I'm not trying to get it exactly over the trunk. I'm not being careful. I'm just kind of popping it on and bringing it up. My Payne's gray is still wet, but I like that it's giving me kind of a gray. And then when I build up to the perfect white, it's really going to pop. So can you see how I'm not really trying to cover every bit? I like it when there's a little dark showing on one side or the other or both. Disregard my little smudge here that I dragged my sleeve in. Every single outfit I have, the sleeves have paint on them. And I'm just kind of going on there. I'm going like one long stretch, but you can do small. Like if you get this far and you want to stop and start again, there's no rule. That's fine. These little guys are thin. I'm going to see if I can do them with the brush on the chisel edge. If I had to, I could just go back to that liner brush and do the same thing. Anybody has any questions at all about the summer camp or the membership, put them in the comments. I will look at them later if I don't address them here, or send me a message. Or if you look on my page, I've got information there. I feel like I'm keep putting it out too much, but I don't want anybody to miss it. And you know how things are on social media. You could miss so many things easily. So if you see me posting too much about it, just know that it's because that people don't always see everything. Okay. So that's a start, and I'm going to go and put another layer because I want them a little brighter in places. But we have loads of time because look at, we have 15 minutes still. We have till 12:15, and like I said, isn't it amazing how much you could do? If you wanted to do some little canvases like this, just little, you know, those little block ones, which are cool, the little ones you can buy at Hobby Lobby and Michael's that are little packages of canvases and the little easels, you could paint these in no time, and they'd be a great, never mind a great gift, but if you sell things in any kind of craft fairs and whatnot, or teacher gifts at Christmas, you could kind of make some cool little thing, and it's not a whole lot of effort. So that will be kind of fun. I wonder if I can see the comments. I sometimes miss the comments on the phone, and then I try to find them here on my page, but it seems like only certain ones are showing up. But I will go back if you have any questions at all. And I'm going to just do the same thing. I could hit it with the hairdryer, but I'm just going to go a little heavier with my paint and just here and there. It's going to be a little heavier because I want some of just the Payne's gray showing here and there. I want some of that gray, that the first color we got when we just put our white on, to show. And then I'm going to go back and get some nice brighter white bits. And then we'll put those little black things on, those little black bark, bits of the bark. But you can see that this is kind of a gray, and then when you put on that stronger white, it looks really cool. Oh, thanks, Cynthia. Thank you. It's hard for me to tell what it's looking like upside down sometimes, but on the camera, especially on my end here, it is helpful to see. So I can tell if something's wonky or wrong just when I see it on the video as I'm going. And that's a great clue, because if you have a little issue or sometimes you just want to check your work, I hold it up in a mirror or take a picture of it. And it's really telling, for some reason, what is wrong and what you might want to fix. So keep that in mind sometimes. And let's not judge our paintings, because we know that they go through times when they're just not done yet and they're just not gorgeous. Just go through it. Keep going, finish. Step away from it for a while. When you come back, it magically appeals to you because you've taken your eyes off of things. We're looking at our paintings just way too close when we're painting. We're so on top of them. Nobody's ever going to look at them this close. You have to really get some distance and some time away from it. So I'm going to now, with my same little liner brush and white paint, just do some of the little branches in just white. They'll be subtle, they'll hardly show, but it gives a nice look. So I am just going to go ahead. Even if I don't see them, I'm just going to keep making little branches with just white. I could even do that with a little bit of black too. I think I've done that on mine. And what makes them is when you put those little black bits of bark, then they scream birch tree. Just doing some little gray ones in here, very far back, just to fill in a little bit. And I go back many times until I get some real bright white bits. And I might even have to do that after I do the little black bits to give that a little chance to dry. But I'm going to just go in. Actually, no, I'm going to do the black bits next, because if it's too white, I'm not going to get the little black bits. And I do them in just 2 steps. I use a little detail brush, and I take my Payne's gray, and I just water it down. I want it really thin. Rather than making a light gray, I'm just going to use the Payne's gray kind of washy. It's like watercolor almost. And I just do these random. I don't think about them. I just do these little bits. So sometimes it's just kind of like I am doing... I go from the side and do like a little bit, rub my brush there. Sometimes it's more triangle-y, sometimes it's just a dot. It's so random that you don't want to think about it and plan it too much, because then it looks too perfect and not natural. I do these in the gray first, which is just the watered down Payne's, and then I'm going to put some really dark black ones, and those really pop. So I'm not even thinking about it. I don't really do it too much on a branch unless it's a thicker branch. I might put a little dot, but mostly it's on the trunks of the trees. Honestly, I'm so loose with it that sometimes it extends over the trunk, and I'm not worried about it. I'm not sitting here looking at it and examining it and doing every little bit. Just have fun. Sometimes when you have fun and you're looser with the paint, it shows, and the painting is fun. And if it's something that you struggled with and were really tight and struggled, that shows too. So just try to loosen up a little bit if you want to have that look. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being tight and more careful and, like I said, blending and whatnot. But just do what you're enjoying. If you're not enjoying that tight, careful work, just throw the paint on there and have fun. It's all about the experience too, right? It's not so much as, oh my God, well, I painted and it didn't come out right. Well, if you make a mistake, you've learned something. It's all an experience. If you enjoyed it, then who cares? When you're doing jigsaw puzzles, you spend all that time putting this puzzle together, and it's an enjoyable pastime, right? You love to do that. And then take it apart. So what difference does it make if you spend an hour or 2 painting and you really enjoyed yourself and had fun? That's what counts. And more often than not, you're going to step away from your painting and you're going to love it anyway. Okay, so now I just take I'm going to actually grab a little black because I really want this to be a little bold. So I'm going to take a tiny, tiny touch of black for this little bit. And when I'm doing these same sort of shapes, sometimes there's like a triangle-y thing, like I said. Sometimes it's just a little touch of my brush. I'm going back and forth on both sides. Sometimes they're in the middle. Can you see now, though, how those are really popping? There's some dark ones there. I just love the way I've got the gray, Payne's gray trunk, and then I do the washes over it with the white, heavier white, and then these little bits just are like the icing on the cake. And you can tell I'm hardly even paying attention. And that makes them look more natural. They look too contrived if you try to make them a certain shape and then did them all that same shape. This sort of makes it so that you're doing them different shapes. You're not really trying to make them all the same. And now I would go in with some bright white if I needed to. This might very well be finished. You might say, oh, that's fine, I like it. But for instance, this little tree here is very gray, so I'm just plopping on some heavier white in places because that's going to really show. And I will hold this up for you in a minute. It gives it a lot of texture. It's really kind of fun. Let me show you what that looks like now. If you look at it super close like this, it's sort of just abstract. But step back, and you've got grays and whites, and there you are. Those would be little winter birches without their leaves. If you were painting like a winter scene, that would be what you would come up with. And now we're going to put some leaves on there. I'm going to use one of my little brushes. It doesn't matter if it's a hog bristle, or I just like a filbert sometimes for leaves, because the filbert is the rounded edge, and it just sort of makes a good leaf shape. But whatever you have will work. You could use it a little flat or a round. It's not going to be, there's no right or wrong. We have no rules. And what I did is I took the colors that I liked here and I just dabbed them on. I have more of them down here. So let me start, for instance, I had a dark green too. Hang on, I'm gonna get my phthalo down here, which I love. And then I go for the lime green. So I'm gonna just take the phthalo on my brush and I'm just dabbing. And this is a little bit of an abstract. It's not a perfectly realistic landscape, but you can see I'm just taking the phthalo green, I'm dabbing. Look at it. I want to have it just random, so if I do it upside down and barely look at it, I'm probably better off. And I'm just starting with one color. I'll do one color throughout, and I'll go to the other colors, and I can backtrack again. And I just do little dabs for the leaves. Sometimes you can put them all in a clump. Sometimes they could just be single. Sometimes you could have them like falling off the tree if you wanted. So it's just a matter of putting them here and there. And don't worry too much. I know sometimes we do our leaves, I've done it, and you do so many because they're so fun, and you do so many leaves that all of a sudden your little tree looks like a lollipop with a trunk and all this ball of leaves. It's easily fixable. I just always have to go back and make sky holes. So I would go back if they've got too heavy in a place, I would clean my brush and go back with the background color. So if it was yellow or purple or teal, I'd pop some in, and then you've got that nice airiness again of the tree with just the little random leaves and not a big ball, big tight ball. So looks like I spattered this one afterwards too, which is kind of fun. I like to spatter things after I use an old toothbrush, but if you look at the top, I don't know if you can see it, I've got white spattered along here and along the bottom. I don't know why, but I like the way it looks, so I do spatter sometimes. Maybe we'll do that if we have a minute. We've got about 7 minutes or something, so I'm going to just kind of pop some leaves on here. You know that you would kind of do more of those, and if it's something you want to dig into, remember this was our first painting for summer camp on that Monday the 19th. Then I'm just going to take the other colors. I've got a lime green I pat on top. And I let them mix a little bit. So you could let them mix a little bit if you like. If you want to have them very pure, you can do them when one layer dries. But I just dab them around. Sometimes, even if there's no dark ones there, I do light. And you can see the brush is I'm just popping on the paint. It's kind of cool. And then I would go ahead and clean my brush in between each one and go into my salmon, which is that I call it salmon, but it's really coral. And dab some of that on. I'm going to go in between some of these colors. It's going to get too muddied if I go on top of these big wet green blobs. So what I would recommend is letting that dry in between. But I'm going to put some on so you get an idea. And I'm going to do the same thing with the teal too. Now, this would be a nice painting in a variety of colors. If you wanted to pick a completely different color palette, you could. I would pick a few colors. I usually pick my favorite colors. And to make your paintings a little more cohesive, keep to a color palette. Think about a color palette before you start. And don't just take all the colors you have because you love them and stick them in the painting. It has a nice cohesive look if you have a few colors and then just keep using them in different places. So sometimes even if the thing isn't, if the leaves are not teal, I'll put them in just to sprinkle that color throughout. So that is not too finished, but you got the idea of how I'm just popping on those leaves and things. And just for fun, let me show you the little spattering technique. So it's just an old toothbrush. This is great for snow or starry skies. I just take the old toothbrush, I put a little water on it. I am going into my white paint. And depending on how thin or thick the mixture is how big your spatters would be. I don't want big spatters on this. I'm just going to go ahead and just give it a little, I'll get my computer here too. I'm sure it's full of spatters anyway. And I will go back now and do my rest of my leaves. And I would do this on top. But it kind of is just a nice little look. I do it for a lot of landscapes across the very bottom of my painting. Just, especially if it's like leaves and different things there. And you can take a look. It's just a little bit of a spattering texture. It's kind of cool. And sometimes I take the colors, like I would maybe use some of the teal and some of the green just to make kind of a more abstract kind of look. I have a little boo-boo because I dragged my sleeve through, and how do you fix something like that? Sometimes you take a little bit of the alcohol, like I said, because it removes the paint, and you can wipe it on there, or you could just paint it over. Now, this is kind of a dark color on top of my light. The best way to touch it up would be to paint it white first, because yellow is so translucent, if you went over that, you would never get it to cover. So paint a little bit white first, and then go back with your yellow, and you can get that to cover and match easy enough. So it's a good way to fix mistakes sometimes. All right, so we are going to wrap up soon, but I'll just dab some more leaves on because we have a couple minutes. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching and popping in. I love that. I love to paint, and I love to have company while I'm painting. So this is kind of like I'm painting and having company. And like I said, I'll put the recording up. You'll find the recording on my page. You'll find the recording on Craft Round the Clock. And speaking of which, if you are my Tinker's Cart art peeps, do check out Craft Round the Clock. I do a segment every week, and it's great because it's all day live crafting every 45 minutes, all different types of things. It's great to get ideas, or just to watch, or just to be part of the community. It's such a great community of creatives. Gives you so many ideas. I might not always be sitting down and watching, but I'll have it running in the background or in the car. I'm not watching, I'm just listening. And it's just fun to be surrounded by creative people. And if you have an interest in painting and art, I would love to get you started on that journey. So thank you guys. I am going to wrap up in a minute, but I'm going to take a look. Oh, hey guys. I love it when all my fellow Craft Around the Clock ladies pop in too, and I have some of my members from my membership here and some newbies. So if you're new too, let me know. Put in the comments if you're new to watching. I love to welcome new people. And let's see, let's pop a few more leaves because it's crazy, isn't it crazy? I always decide at the last minute what I'm going to do. We were talking about that, like how do you decide, or you plan? I never plan. If I plan, and I wake up in the morning and I go to get ready for my segment, I change my mind anyway. So I like to just decide on the fly. But with summer camp coming up, we are going, I thought, let me just give you a little bit of a taste of what we're doing. And I know some of the paintings, like I said, the little kids at the beach look a little more detailed, but if you look at their faces carefully, or their features, there aren't any really. So if you take my tracing and just fill in when I tell you, put the color here, put the color there, they are just from a distance reading as little children. But up close, again, it just looks a little abstract. And you can change up the hair color or swimsuits and things. And if you want to make them to look like your kids or your grandkids, you can change up the number. I'm always available to adjust the tracer for you. If you said to me, oh, I want a little boy and I want just 2 girls or whatever, I can just do that for you. Or sizes. I give you tracers for all different sizes, all formatted, so you just throw them through your printer and they come out the right size, and then you put them together. But if you have a special size or something you're painting on, I'm happy to change those. And I want to tell you too, don't always have to think you have to paint on canvas. You've seen me paint on crazy things, ice skates and all kinds. Oh, the gourds the other day. And, oh, did you see? I put them up behind me, the little paintbrushes with the faces. Keep your eyes peeled for fun things to paint, because it doesn't have to be a canvas. Now, I've got to pop off, and stay tuned for the next crafter. You might have to refresh your page to have them come up. So just do that. And who is coming after me? Vine and Silk. So stay tuned, and I'll paint with you soon. Thank you, guys. Bye.